Well, I think we're live. We'll just give it about 30 seconds and we'll get a couple people jump in. And then we will go from there. Turn the volume up just a little bit. Hopefully everybody can hear my volume today. Let's see. Just give it a minute. See who we got jumping in here. Jason Plumbing Supply. Hey, how you doing, Jay? Chris, hello, hello. Van Hagar, no guitars today, my friend. Today we are talking about something a little bit more serious. On a very serious note. But great job the other night, Bill. I mean, you guys freaking smoked it. Every time I watch you play guitar, I realize how sucky I am at it, and that I should stick to shooting guns and kicking asses. So, I'm joking. I love playing guitar, and people like you, man, I'll tell you, you're a massive inspiration. You guys are. It's amazing, dude. I would love to, I've been playing for 25 years, and I would love to take some lessons from you, seriously. Simon, how you doing? Johnny Beanraid, yeah. Guitar collector, how you doing? I'm glad to see some guitar guys in here. Maybe that means that some of the guitar folks are also firearms owners. I'm going to give it about 30 more seconds, guys, to a minute, just to get a little bit more participation going here, and then we'll jump right into it because we do have some interesting stuff to cover today, and then I'll get to some questions after. It's going to be kind of like the fitness video where I'm just going to roll through this process that I'm doing and what I want to talk about. I'm going to run it kind of like a semi-formal, semi-informal type class, and then I'll answer questions at the end. I love freedom and our Second Amendment. Awesome, bro. Me too. Mike, how you doing? All right. Hopefully you guys enjoy this video. Again, it's a little bit of a different type of a channel that I created. I mean, it's mostly guitars and Van Halen related and sound and all that. And we're going to continue on with that. But I'm going to start implementing more fitness stuff, martial arts stuff, and firearm stuff. I'm going to start on my Instagram page probably within the next week. I'm going to start putting up kata of the day or kata of the week. It'd be a specific martial arts kata, that people can check out or whatever. Maybe some folks have done that before or recognize it, whatever. Love gun safety and guitars. Yeah, guns, girls, guitars, God, motorcycles. What am I missing here? Oh, beer. But beer and alcohol absolutely not to be mixed with firearms, absolutely. So, all right. Well, I guess we got a pretty good showing here. Just real quick, I want to make this very clear on a totally serious note right now. This is water, absolutely water, because even though there's no live firearms, or live ammunition in this particular classroom, I never mix any types of drugs or alcohol with firearms. So just water, guys, until the class is done. So, all right. As I said, we're going to jump right into this, and then we'll answer some questions after. This particular video is something that I had a few messages about over the last month and a half, and I had a lot of people saying to me, Rob, we know you're a firearms instructor, you teach firearms. Would you be able to, by the way, if you hear that, this is my ice maker, so, getting it all geared up for after the video. They all would say, you teach firearms, would you be willing to do like a home firearms safety video? And I said, that's a great idea, it really is. It's a great idea because with all the firearms that are out there in this country today, putting more knowledge out there, and even for the folks that know all this stuff, because nothing I'm going to be talking about today is anything that's really that difficult. It's all basic common sense stuff. But it's stuff that we all need to hear all the time, okay? You can never have too much knowledge or practice too much safety when it comes to firearms, okay? So first off, what I would like to do is talk about a goal. Whenever I teach firearms classes, whether it's advanced tactical firearms, tactical pistol, rifle, shotgun to law enforcement agencies, or teaching it to civilians, or basically just teaching basic firearms license to carry classes, like I'm doing one this Sunday, I'm doing another one the following weekend for folks in Massachusetts to get their license to carry, or whether I'm just doing something like this. There always has to be a goal. What's the goal of this class? What's the goal of this video? And the goal of this video is to teach the basic knowledge, skills, and attitude necessary for owning and using a firearm safely. All right? Now, not everybody's going to become expert shooters by watching this show. Not everybody's going to become tactical gurus or anything like that. We're just going to be talking about some basic stuff for those of you folks that own firearms in your home. Maybe you have kids, maybe you don't have kids, maybe you have folks that live in your home that are elderly, maybe you have folks that live in your home that, shouldn't be exposed to firearms, okay? So we're going to talk about storage, we're going to talk about all that stuff, safety, basic things. But to teach the basic knowledge, skills, and attitude necessary for owning and using a firearm safely. That's the goal. Now, out of that goal, there's one word in that goal, just one word that really stands out to me. And that word is attitude. Attitude, okay? Knowledge, skills, all that stuff. Yeah, of course, you have to have skills, you have to have knowledge. But accidents with firearms happen to the most skilled and knowledgeable people out there, okay? They really do. And I have seen so many and seen so many near misses over the years by folks just not having the right attitude, okay? Now, I'm not going to stand here and slam police officers for a few reasons. One, I am one. I am a police officer. Over the last 20 years, 15 years, I've trained many police officers, and I've trained with many police officers. And I'm here to tell you one thing. There are some law enforcement officers out there that should not be carrying guns, all right? Because the only time they touch that firearm, the only time they touch it is when they go out to the range once a year to qualify, and it sits in their holster or in their armory for the rest of the time. So how do you think someone is going to have the right knowledge and skills when they only practice with that particular tool once a year? It doesn't happen. Now, that's not all cops. That's not your tactical teams that are out there running and gunning and high-speed, low-drag, dynamic stuff all the time. Those guys are spot on. I've trained with those guys over the years, and I have a lot of friends that are still on these teams, and they're amazing. I'm talking about your, like me right now, your local small-time town cops, all right? And it's not just police officers. It's civilians, folks that own guns, okay, that really should be practicing some more basic attitude, and that's where that word kicks in. You've got to have the right attitude, because I'm going to tell you right now, an accident with a firearm can happen just like that, okay? Now, I make that point very clear, and I make that point very clear in any of the classes that I do. When I teach face-to-face, hands-on, big classroom, 45 people or 2 people, it doesn't matter, I make it very clear. And my objective is not to scare anyone. Because these items right here, this is my Glock 19, okay? It is safe. You will notice there's nothing in the chamber, okay? It has a magazine, but the magazine is unloaded. And you will notice during this entire video, I will never once point this gun at the camera, okay? And while there's nobody standing in front of me, I train all my students to have a 360-degree safe position. That firearm is always pointed in the safe direction, and my finger is always out of the trigger until I'm on target and I'm ready to fire, okay? That is something that I practice and I teach all of my students, okay? And it has to be taught. But at the same time, this is not something you want to be afraid of, okay? This is not... It's not like, oh my gosh, it's a gun, what am I supposed to... No, it's a tool. It's nothing different than a hammer. You can walk up with a hammer and smash someone over the head and kill them faster than you could probably load that gun and pull the trigger, okay? So why do we pick up a hammer and that's okay with that? It doesn't make sense. People are so afraid of these things. There's nothing to be afraid of with a firearm. It's the person that you need to be afraid of, okay? Guns don't kill people. People kill people. If guns kill people, then forks and spoons make people fat. And it's that simple, okay? It's that simple. Now, I am not here to preach Second Amendment. I am not here to preach NRA. I'm not here to preach the Second Amendment Foundation. I'm not here to tell everybody you should go out and buy a gun. That's not my purpose. I am here to hopefully remind folks that are avid shooters, hunters, gun owners, and maybe someone who's thinking about possibly owning a firearm, that these are basic tools, and there's nothing to be afraid of. But you have to have the right knowledge and the right skills and the right, remember that word I said? Attitude. And you always have to remember it. Okay? I'm 45 years old, and I've been around firearms since I was 10 years old. My dad and my grandfather took me out and learned how to shoot. Way back in the days when the A-Team was on NBC every Tuesday night, I thought that was so cool. These guys were running around shooting machine guns. And my grandfather and my dad drilled into my thick, pea-brain, stupid skull, all right, that these are never toys. Now, over the years, I've taken a lot of different, tactical classes and trained in it and been lucky enough to be able to train some amazing folks. So it's a passion of mine now. But after all these years and the thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of rounds I put down range from probably every kind of firearm you could possibly imagine, an accident could happen to me just like that, as quick as it could anybody else. So I always practice the right attitude, okay? And we're going to go over that in a little while, all right? So, first off, why would somebody want to own a firearm? And again, I'm not telling anybody here that you should or you shouldn't. I'm just talking to the folks that want to watch this video. If anything else, maybe by watching this video will make a person who doesn't own a firearm maybe not want to own a firearm, but maybe just to feel a little bit more comfortable when they're around them, or when they're over at their friends' houses and they know they have firearms. Maybe that person who doesn't want to own a firearm but has a little bit of knowledge in the right, here we go again, attitude, might say, hey, dude, I know you're showing my husband your new shotgun, but please don't point that at him. Please take your finger out of the trigger. That's the kind of stuff that you want to be able to pick up on and see it all the time. So, I swear, every single time I start a video, my daughter calls. I swear, she just waits. And I put my phone on Do Not Disturb, and it still happens. Why would someone want to own a firearm? Now, I'm talking about a rifle, a handgun, a shotgun, a black powder firearm, okay? Any type of a weapon, okay? That is a firearm. Recreational shooting. It's fun. It's a great time. You know how many people I've taken out to the range? Girlfriends to friends, to folks, family members that have never shot. And they're like, oh, I don't know if I like this. Whatever. This is a little bit strange, and at the end of the class, or the end of going to the range, they're like, wow, that was really fun. So, anyways, recreational shooting. There's nothing more fun to go out on a Sunday afternoon and just play and shoot downrange, okay? Or go out and hunt, or whatever it is. Competitive shooting. Throughout our nation, throughout this country, there are all kinds of classes. There's bullseye shoots, there's IDPA shooting, there's military shoots, there's cowboy action shoots, there's all kinds of events, and just basically things that you would want to maybe get involved in if this is something that you really enjoy. So competitive shooting is fun. I used to do a lot of competing years ago. I don't anymore. Just don't have the time for it, and it's not about trophies or anything like that for me. It's more about I just enjoy being around firearms. I enjoy shooting. I enjoy teaching people. It's just a good time. Hunting. There's a lot of hunters out there in this country, and that's a big thing. Hunting is huge in this country, especially in some of the different areas. Not so much in the cities, obviously, but where I live in Franklin County here in New England. We have deer season, we have turkey season, we have all the different seasons, bow season, black powder season. It's prevalent. A lot of my friends hunt. I used to hunt. I do not hunt anymore just because I don't have the time for it. I'm more of a shooter. I'm more of a defensive type mindset than I am, a hunter. And nothing against it. I maybe one day I'd get back into it if I had more time, but I just don't have the time. But hunting is huge. Protection of self and family. That's a big one. When a lot of people, oh, I don't need a gun in my house to protect my family. Okay, maybe you don't. Maybe you don't. And I'm not saying everybody should have one. Again, that's not my point. But it is your right. It is your Second Amendment right. And a lot of people say, the Second Amendment, I hear a lot of folks say, well, the Second Amendment, you don't need an AK-47 or you don't need a handgun or this kind of a weapon, to go hunting. That's not what the Second Amendment's about. Well, the Second Amendment has nothing to do with hunting. Show me in the Second Amendment where it even mentions hunting. The Second Amendment is about the civilians being able to protect themselves from a tyranny-filled government. That's what the Second Amendment was put in place for. Now, whether you believe it's still applicable in today's world or you don't, again, that's not the point. The Second Amendment has nothing to do with hunting. It never did, and it never will. So whether it stays in this country in the Bill of Rights or whether it's removed, whatever happens, and I'm not going to give you my opinion, it has nothing to do with hunting. It has to do with you being able to protect yourself. Okay? Now, as a police officer myself, and seeing the statistics in this country with the addiction issues and everything else that's going on, the amount of home invasions that are happening in this country, from California and the West Coast to Maine up in the Northeast to Massachusetts to Florida, even in the states like Texas, they're happening all the time. They're happening all the time, and it's getting worse. Crime, gun crime, non-gun crime is getting worse. You have a right to protect yourself and your family, okay? And I'm not saying you need a firearm to do that. But what I am saying is, as a police officer, when seconds count, the cops are minutes away. Okay? Remember that. When seconds count, the cops are minutes away. So, protection of self and family. I remember, I'm not going to get into stories because we're going to get into safe storage here in a second, but I'm just trying to set this whole thing up. I remember when I was married 10 years ago, my ex-wife had one of her friends over, and I was just coming back from the range. I think I was teaching a firearms class. And so I had a couple of cases, and they were secured and everything. My kids were little at the time, so I was bringing them in, and I said hi to her and whatever, put everything in, and I went out, sat down, had a glass of wine with my ex-wife and her friend. We were sitting there talking, and my ex-wife's friend says, I just got to ask you, Rob, why do you have guns? She said, why do you own guns? And I said, because I like them. What do you mean, why? I like them. She said to me, well, why do you need those assault type of military guns? Why do you need those? You don't need those. And the funny thing was, her husband was a car collector. All right, he had Corvettes, he had Chevelles, he had, you name it, Trans Ams, and he would make them go as fast as they could. And I said to him, I said, well, okay. I said, let me ask you a question. She said, what? I said, why does your husband have all these race cars? You can't drive 200 miles down the road. You can only go 55. I can't drive 55, 65, whatever. Why does he own race cars? Because he likes them. Why does he make them go 200 miles an hour? You can't drive 200 miles an hour because he likes them. I like these kind of guns. They're fun. They're cool. They're fun to shoot as long as you practice the right attitude and safety. And she said, well, so you really think that you need these to protect your family? You really think you need these guns? You're a martial artist. You do all this stuff. I said, okay. Well, when someone kicks your door in at 3 o'clock in the morning and you're out of dead sleep, how are you going to get to the gun safe to unlock it and have enough time? You're going to say, oh, hang on a second. Give me 1 second. I'm going to open my gun safe. Really? So she said, you really think you're going to get attacked? And I asked her, I said, let me ask you a question. Do you have fire extinguishers in your house? Of course I do. I'm going to go, why? Do you think you're going to have a fire? She didn't know what to say. Food for thought. Collecting. Collecting firearms is also very important. Okay? Your grandfather or your ancestors hand down firearms. They're in your family. Very important. Very, very important. Exercise of a constitutional right. Okay? Those are all reasons why someone might want to own a firearm. And again, you don't have to. But if you do, I hope you learn something from this. And if you don't own a firearm and you have no intentions from owning a firearm, I hope if you're watching this video, you at least at the end of it say, wow, I learned something, or I feel a little bit more comfortable around them. or if I am around them and I see someone doing something that's unsafe, I know exactly when to say, stop, don't do that, and or walk away, all right? And you don't have to be rude. I see it quite frequently at the range. You know, I'll see someone unloading there. I have my gear bag and I'm taking my stuff out, getting all ready. And I see someone, you know, turning around and they're waving their gun around or whatever. I'll walk right over to them and say, excuse me, sir, ma'am, please don't point that gun at me. I'm not a jerk. I don't go over and start swearing at them and cussing them out. But I'm very stern, all right? Because I want that person in their little brain to say, whoa. I want them to be a little embarrassed. Because guess what? You don't get a second chance on this stuff. You don't get a second chance. It happens all the time. I see it in the news. I see it in the statistics, especially with police officer gun accidents happen all the time. And it's all because of stupidity. There is no such thing as a gun accident. No such thing. It's all gun negligence. Because there's no such thing. The gun's not going to go off unless the trigger's pulled. And it's not going to hit someone unless it was pointed at them. It's that simple. There's no such thing as an accident. It's all negligence, no matter what you see. And I'm being very serious on this because this is a serious topic. And I'm not trying to scare anybody, but I want everyone to know when they watch this video and to be reminded, especially the folks that think they're experts, you know, I want people to be reminded, wow, he's got a point there. You know, if you don't believe it, that's fine. But just make sure you're practicing the right attitude. Now, I'm not going to go off a PowerPoint or anything, but I'm going to read one more thing when it comes to responsibilities. Americans enjoy a right that citizens of many other countries do not, the right to own firearms. But with this right comes responsibilities. It is the gun owner's responsibility to store, operate, and maintain their firearms safely. It is the gun owner's responsibility to ensure that unauthorized or untrained individuals cannot gain access to their firearms. And it is the gun owner's responsibility to learn and obey all applicable laws that pertain to the purchase, possession, and use of the firearm in their locale. Guns are neither safe nor unsafe by themselves. When gun owners learn, practice, with the right attitude, remember, responsible gun ownership, guns are safe. Okay? All right. Now, I'm going to read 4 safety rules. And any of you guys that are gun owners or instructors or teachers or have practiced this stuff or shoot, whatever, this isn't anything brand new to you. But I do hope it's something that gets stuck in your head again for today, okay? Because you can't hear it enough, myself included. Always keep the gun pointed in the safe direction. So if you're at home, okay, and you're showing your new Glock 19 to your best friend, okay, and your best friend's over here, you're not like this, hey, check out my new gun, and you're pointing at him and everything. No, don't do that. Don't do that. There is no excuse for ever pointing the firearm, the muzzle of the barrel, on the handgun, on the pistol, the revolver, the rifle, the shotgun. There's no excuse for that muzzle to be pointed at anyone ever. Ever. Unless you're law enforcement or you're being attacked and your house is being invaded and you choose to apply a level of physical force that turns into deadly force. That's a whole other topic. No excuse for that to be pointed at anybody. Always keep the gun pointed in the safe direction, okay? What is the safe direction? Okay, safe direction can be straight down, safe direction can be up, or a safe direction can be in an area where there is no one else. Now, of course, if there's people in the other room and then it's a sheetrock wall, of course you have to consider all these types of things. Know your environment. Excuse me, okay? Always keep your finger off the trigger until ready to shoot. That finger should always be off the trigger. If you're right-handed, it's the same thing. Like I said, you're never going to see me laser this camera. Even though there's nobody live in this room, I practice that. And I want everybody to know there is no excuse. If I come up on target like this and I'm demonstrating something, it will always be in a direction that is not on this camera. And if there was folks sitting right here, it would be the same exact thing. All right? Always keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to fire. Okay? Always. So that means when you're sitting there cleaning your gun, okay, your finger shouldn't be on the trigger. You should have checked it first to make sure it's unloaded and safe, in a safe condition. But your finger shouldn't be on the trigger. Unless it's one of those firearms, like a Glock, that you have to dry fire prior to disassembly. Okay? So what do? You dry fire in a safe direction. So always keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot. Always keep the gun unloaded until ready to use. Now, I'm not going to get into carry and concealed and all that. This is not that class. Okay, so I'm not even going to touch on that right now. We're just going to talk about home safety. Okay, carry and concealed and all that stuff is another video that I may do. I teach that stuff, but I haven't put together a lesson plan for a video yet. So we're going to keep it very, very simple. Okay, so that gun should never be loaded until you're ready to use it. That firearm is in your safe, it's locked up, it's away from the kids, there's no ammunition present, which we're going to get into in a little bit. If you're cleaning that firearm and it's on the kitchen table or the dining room table or up in the bedroom or down in the basement, whatever the condition your residence is set up in, it has to be in a safe condition and absolutely unloaded, okay? Always. So, causes of firearms accidents. You can get on YouTube any day of the week, any hour of the day, and type in something to do with firearms, and you'll see some pretty good videos with some pretty knowledgeable and professional shooters, instructors, teachers, but you'll also find a bunch of fucking assholes that should not have firearms in their hands. And I'm sorry for the language, but you will find a bunch of fucking assholes that should not have guns, okay? That should have had a little bit of training because they're not using the right attitude, okay? And they're pointing the guns at people and they're shooting into the water and doing all this crazy freaking stuff. Now, as a Second Amendment person myself and someone, and all I'm going to give my opinion is I do believe in the Second Amendment. Okay, I do believe it is my right to own a firearm, and I do believe it is my right to protect my family and myself. But I can see how people see this stuff and they read the paper, non-gun owners, okay, people that maybe don't have a lot of exposure to it. I can see how people look at that and go, wow, just ban the frickin' things. We don't want those. Look at these idiots. I can see how people say that. Because you type in anything and you can see it's not just, it's all over the place, okay? I can see how people would say, just ban it. It's a knee-jerk reaction thing, of course, because the gun's not the problem. It's the person. It's the training. There's other factors, okay? I'm not getting into school shootings or anything like that. That's not what this is about. But I can understand how someone could feel that way. But there's where that attitude thing comes up again, okay? Teaching your kids at a young age not to touch the firearm. Teaching your kids as they come up, if you have firearms in your house, what to do. You know, not have your finger on the trigger, educating them. This whole country spends so much time, can't tell kids about it, no, shh, don't say anything. And then inevitably one day when they get old enough, they're going to be exposed to it. So wouldn't you want your children to understand what to do, not if, but when they are exposed to it, whether it's over at a friend's house, hey Johnny, check out my dad's new gun that he got. Wouldn't you want little Johnny to say, hey, don't point that gun at me. Well, keep your finger out of the trigger. My dad taught me that, or my mom taught me that. I want my kids to be educated, and I did. I started educating my kids both when they were 5 years old. Now, neither one of them really like guns, but any one of them I can take, both of them I can take out, and they can load that gun, rack it, fire it, finger out of the trigger, unload it, make it safe, and leave it in a safe condition because I've trained them for that. Because I want them to have that knowledge as they get older. And I think that's where this country misses a lot. All right? Ignorance, lack of knowledge, ignorance of rules for safe gun handling, ignorance of the proper and safe way to operate a firearm. Well, I know what I'm doing. I've had this gun all these years. You know how many people I see in my own town at the local turkey shoots, walking around with their turkey guns, and they're standing back like this. They don't even know how to lean into it. They don't even know how to lean into it and absorb the recoil. They have no idea what they're doing. And then they fire the shot and they're turning around. These are people that have been around guns their entire lives. All right? Ignorance. Because they need to slow down a little bit and focus on what, the basic stuff. And I'm telling you, on the news all the time, you see grandfather shoots grandson in the back out hunting. Just crazy stuff, and it happens. And it's all negligence. Carelessness is the next one. Poor or improper attitude. I'm a cop. I've been around guns all night. I don't need to worry about it. And then the next day you see in the paper, police officer in urinal, fires round up through the courthouse ceiling into the floor. How'd that happen? I'm telling you guys, it happens all the time. And I don't even chuckle because it's not funny. I just shake my head, and it's a real shame, because people's lives are being contended with here. And it doesn't have to be that way. Failure to apply the rules for safe gun handling, absolutely. Failure to observe proper procedures for safely operating a firearm. So the last story I'm going to tell, and we're going to get into firearms storage. The last story I'm going to tell, and again, I'm not trying to scare anybody, but I do want to make this very clear. This is a story that stuck with me since I was a little kid. I was probably 12 or 13 years old. And my dad came home from work one day. It was hunting season. It was in October. My dad came home from work one night. It was a Monday night. And my father looked like he'd seen a ghost. I was sitting at the kitchen table, the dining room table, doing my homework. I'll never forget this. My mom was making dinner. I'm sitting out there playing with the dog, whatever, trying to do my homework, not paying attention to it, obviously. My dad comes home, and he just walked in the bedroom. I'm like, hey, Dad. He didn't say nothing. I'm like, my mom and I were like, what's going on with him? What happened? He was in the bedroom for maybe 10 minutes, and he came out, sat down, we're getting ready for dinner. Halfway through dinner, he said, I'm not going to give the guy's name. He said, so-and-so's son was killed yesterday on a Sunday afternoon. And I was like, what? I mean, I didn't know the kid, but I knew the guy he was talking about, the father, right? Because he I think he was up helping my dad put our swimming pool in. My dad we put our own pools in, back in those days. Get a bunch of guys from work, they'd all come out, they'd dig the hole, level it, whatever. And he said, his son died. And my mom and I were like, whoa, what happened? His kid was about my age at the time, 12, 13. He said he shot him. And I remember thinking about it, and I said, what? He was cleaning his shotgun. He'd taken his son hunting that Sunday afternoon. They went out hunting. And they got home, they were getting ready to have dinner on a Sunday night. The father's sitting there cleaning the shotgun and blew his son's head basically clean off. The son was walking into the room, and the father had the gun up, and I don't know if he was starting to clean it or done cleaning it, and boom. I remember as a kid, just that feeling that I got, and as you get older, you remember it, and then you get into firearms, and then you're teaching it, and I've seen a lot of stuff. I've seen a lot of good stuff in my years of shooting, and I've seen a lot of crazy, stupid stuff, too, people do. But this one story, still to this day, hearing it as a 12, 13-year-old kid, really stuck in my head. And I tell this story to most of my gun classes that I teach, the safety classes. Breakdown here, negligence, right? Why was he pointing the gun in the doorway first and squeezing the trigger? Why was the gun loaded? He was in the house either cleaning it or probably beginning cleaning it. He never unloaded that firearm when they were done hunting and they got into the pickup truck. He just stuck it in the cab. How do you not do that? I just don't understand. I mean, that's just common sense. But you see how this stuff happens. It still happens today. And guys, I'm telling you right now, I don't know whatever happened to that guy. The only thing I know is the husband and wife it was their only son. They ended up getting divorced, obviously, and I don't think my dad ever saw him again. He might even have committed suicide. I have no idea what happened. But can you imagine living with that? Can you imagine that? And can you imagine understanding that there's no excuse for that ever happening? Okay? It's just something that needs to be said and needs to be pointed out. Because if something like that stays in someone's head and they remember that vision, maybe, just maybe, at one time in their life, they can save someone else from it having it happen, okay? Or they can catch it. This kind of stuff stays in your head for a long time, all right? So, let's talk about firearms storage, okay? So for those of you folks that have pistols, revolvers, shotguns, rifles, muzzle loaders, air rifles, airsoft guns, it doesn't matter because any of them can injure or kill someone, okay? Obviously, I'm speaking to a vast group of people that live in many states of our country. Some have zero gun laws, like Vermont literally has nothing. You don't need a license or anything. A lot of states like, New Hampshire, Texas, things like that, you don't need a license to carry. I think you can get them, but you don't need them. Some states like Massachusetts, California, other states, whatever, they have storage laws, they have carry laws, they have all kinds of stuff. You have to get licensure requirements and all that. Okay, personally, I believe we should just have universal gun control. I'm an avid Second Amendment person, but I believe in training, licensure requirements, and background checks. Because I really don't want the local rapist or child molester running around with a firearm when my 15-year-old daughter's riding her bike to school. Okay, so it is our right, but it's also a privilege. All right, I believe. So I believe that if this country would just adapt a rule that worked for everyone, which it'll never happen, of course, because the states want their own individual rights. But if we could all come up with some kind of a universal licensure requirement, background checks, and training, I think it'd be a win-win for everybody. But that's just me talking and whatever. So because we don't have that, and we have states that don't have any storage laws, you can literally leave guns laying around on the table loaded and it's not illegal, to states like mine, whereas if I leave one of these guns laying on the table not even loaded, and someone's choking in the kitchen or whatever, and EMS shows up. Guess who shows up with EMS? The cops. They come in and they see an unattended firearm just sitting on the table, loaded or not. Guess what? I'm a cop. I'm probably going to jail. I'm going to lose my license to carry. I'm going to lose all my guns because I had an unattended firearm sitting here that was not secure. So we're dealing with many states that have laws that are very strict, to states that have almost nothing, to states that have minimal. So I'm going to give you what I teach. I teach that any firearm should not just be left laying around and unattended for somebody, whoever it may concern, to just walk in and pick it up and check it out. Okay. Well, the gun's unloaded. Okay, that's what everybody says. How do you know it's unloaded? These guns right here. I know all these guns are unloaded, but I'm going to look at it every single time. I'm going to look at that chamber. I'm going to look that cylinder. I'm going to look at that cylinder and make sure that this LCR 357 is unloaded before I hand it to somebody. I'm not just going to leave it laying there. So, firearms storage. In my state, they require you have a gun safe, a trigger lock, or a cable lock. Okay, now a trigger lock is something that basically it fits around the perimeter of the trigger with a lock, and basically, it doesn't protect the firearm from theft perspective, but basically what it does is it makes it so somebody can't put their finger on the trigger or manipulate it, and there's no way it could fire. That's a trigger lock. You can find those for handguns, you can find it for rifles, you can find it for shotguns, whatever. Okay. It's the same thing for revolvers. They also have what's called, cable locks. And the cable locks, basically, what this is it's a lock with a cable that goes around and secures back into the lock. And you take the cable and you feed it up through the mag well, out through the chamber and back, maybe through the trigger or whatever. And what it does, it makes it so you can't manipulate the slide. And if you're talking about a revolver, you just put it through the cylinder and around. And a rifle, the same thing, just in through the chamber and down, or whatever it is. There's ways to use cable locks, okay, for some firearms. Obviously, from a theft perspective, a gun safe is the way to, probably going to be the ultimate. They make all kinds of gun safe. They have dial, combo safe locks. Like that's what I have. I have a pretty decent sized one because of my collection, and they have smaller ones, and basically, you got to look at what's right and what's wrong. Well, it's kind of what is your purpose? What are you looking to achieve? Are you looking to protect it from a theft perspective and keep people safe, or are you just looking at to keep people safe and you're not really concerned about stealing? It's kind of your call. But never just leave a gun laying around. Okay, never just leave a firearm laying around. I see that happen a lot. And I know people that live up in New Hampshire and Vermont, and again, they don't really have many gun laws in these particular spots. And I'll walk into their houses, and they got ARs leaning up against the walls, and they get whatever, and it's like, gosh, man, they got kids running around and stuff, and it's like, well, my kids know how to use them. Well, my kids do too, but that doesn't mean I leave guns laying around. What happens if somebody just walks into that? I mean, you just don't know, and and something can happen like that. It doesn't take but a second, all right? And that 1 second for something to happen is a second you can never take back, because you can't jump in a time machine and rewind that. Now again, I'm not talking about home defense. That's a separate topic, and I do teach classes on how folks that live in states that have weapons secure lock requirements, how do you get to that gun quick if you need it? There's definitely options for that if that's something that is a concern of yours. But again, that is not part of today. Guns need to be secured. Okay, if you have firearms, don't just leave them laying around. I don't care what your state law says. It's just not good juju. It's bad juju. It's not a good idea. Unless it's something that's hanging on the wall or something, you know, it's better to keep it secured. And if nothing else, even if you live alone, it's just a good idea. At least keep it in a locked closet or something. Okay. So now let's get into ammunition storage. Ammunition storage. Ammunition should be stored in a cool, dry place, not like a moist, wet basement or a hot attic. Obviously, you want to keep it in a pretty conditioned, balanced environment, because it's got gunpowder in it. Okay, you don't want those rounds or those shock shells or whatever they are. You don't want them to become corroded, because if they become corroded, then basically what you're going to have, you could have some type of a malfunction on the range. You could have a misfire, which isn't really a big deal, but a squib load, hang fires, anything like that. Those can happen when you have rounds that become corroded due to extreme heat or extreme cold. Okay. You know, a lot of folks say keep the ammunition in the original factory box or carton. Obviously, keep it where children or unauthorized folks cannot gain access to it. Is the bullet really a threat by itself? Not really, because it has to be contained within the chamber or the cylinder or whatever to really be totally dangerous. But yeah, I mean it can be a hazard. It absolutely can be a hazard. It's not something you want your little 3-year-old swallowing or something like that. Oh, it'll come out on the other end. Well, yeah. Well, you better hope it does. Definitely not a good idea. You definitely want to keep that stuff secured and locked away, or at least stowed away where no one's going to find it. A lot of states have ammunition storage laws very similar to what the firearms storage laws are. Some states have laws that say you have to store your firearms locked separate from your ammunition locked. Some states don't care. It's always a good idea, just keep it out of sight. At least keep it in a secured environment, okay? Obviously, you don't want to, expose the ammunition to water solvents, petroleum products, things like that can cause deterioration, malfunction. We kind of talked about that. So just something you really want to, you want to keep in mind. So, you're a firearms owner, all right, and you say to yourself one day, all right, I want to take my 1911 Colt 45 out. I want to clean it today. Well, if you're like my ex-wife, you ain't going to be doing it on the kitchen table, because she just don't friggin' like that. Yeah, I used to try to do it all the time, and I used to get sent down to the basement. Now I just do whatever I want because I live alone, but you're not doing it on the bed either. It doesn't matter how many towels you put down. They just don't like that. You take the firearm out. What's the first thing you do? All right, and I'm just going to use this Glock. Okay, now typically in a safe or in some type of an environment that the firearm or the weapon's been secured, you're going to find the weapon like this. All right. So I take it out. What's the first thing I do? I got my finger out of the trigger. It's pointed in a direction. There may or may not be people around. So I want to be aware of my surroundings. Okay, I want to be aware. I want to be aware of my target's environment. I want to be aware of my normal environment. What's behind it? What's in line with it? What's next to it? What's beside it? What if something were to happen? Okay, how would this affect that? Okay, are the people in the other room? Or what is it? Are you outside? You always want to be aware of your environment. Okay, sending around in a negligent manner down range or whatever to whoever it may concern, not a good thing. So you always want to be aware of that. Finger out of the trigger, always keep it in a safe direction. So I'm going to clean this gun. It could be a rifle, okay? It could be an AR-15. It could be this. I'm going to have the barrel pointed down, okay, or up, depending. Again, it depends, but notice my finger's out of the trigger. I personally like the firearm pointed down. Okay, I'm control of the muzzle, and I put it down. Now that's a training aid, so I'm not going to rack the slide because it'd take me forever, because that's a blue gun, it doesn't function. First thing I'm going to do, okay, if it's a pistol, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to remove the magazine. Okay, the magazine's empty. Gun's unloaded, I know it is, right? Wrong, you don't know that. How do you know there's not a round in the chamber? So I'm going to lock that slide back, okay? And now I'm going to visually and physically, okay, physically maybe not, just make sure you don't hit the slide stop so you're going to lose your finger. Physically and visually ensure that weapon is safe, okay? Now I can close the slide, I can dry fire it, and I can do the disassembly process as simple as that, okay, or whatever type of firearm it is you're doing. All right, so what I'm saying is it really doesn't matter what type of a firearm it is. If it's a revolver, it's the same thing. If it's like this, I'm going to open that chamber, I'm going to look at the cylinder, I'm going to ensure that it's safe, I'm even going to look down the barrel just to make sure there's not something stuck in the chamber, okay? And now I'm going to go and I'm going to clean. I'm not going to go over cleaning because, again, this isn't a cleaning video. It's more of a safe storage type video on how to be safe. And then I'm basically going to do what I need to do to clean the firearm, all right? And then I'm going to put it back together. If I disassemble it, if I have not disassembled it, obviously revolvers, you really don't do any disassembly unless you have armorer status and you know what you're doing. You're going to clean your firearm. You're going to put it back together. Make sure it's in a safe configuration, and then you're going to lock it up, okay? But at all times, you still, even though you know there's not a round in that chamber, even though you know there's not a round in that cylinder, whatever it is, and even though you know that that firearm is safe, you still are going to keep that finger out of the trigger because you're not out at the range, you're not in a life-threatening situation where you need to draw and squeeze that trigger, okay? You keep your finger out of that trigger, and you're going to keep that muzzle pointed in a safe direction, all right? And it needs to become automatic. It has to become something that is just normal for it, all right? Again, I see it so many times. I used to see it at the range when I'd have my officers out qualifying, and I would get them 3 times a year. Sometimes I'd have them out for tactical shoots. Sometimes it was day qual. Sometimes it was low light fire, night fire, whatever it was. And there's always a couple low common denominators in any group. I don't care what kind of a unit it is. There's always a couple folks that you really just would like to hand a wooden weapon, like what's that movie with Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell? He does the desk pop. He gives him the freaking Michael Keaton gives him the wooden gun. Yeah, I forget the name of them. Doesn't matter. There's always those folks, and every time we'd be cleaning, I'd see them just say, "Oh, guys, stop doing that!" Chew their asses out. Threaten to send them back, whatever. Because you don't have it. You can't. That's not the type of mistake that you can tolerate. You can't tolerate that. So the other piece that I personally teach, and that most firearm schools will teach in any type of a safety class, is there never, ever, 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 ever should be live rounds / ammunition at the cleaning table. There's absolutely no need to have any ammunition, live ammunition at that cleaning table. You do not want to take any chances of introducing a live round to that weapon while you're cleaning it. Absolutely not. So when we would set up shop out at the range, I'd have the cleaning tables here for the guys, the officers I should say, we'd have the reloading tables here, because these guys were on shift. Some of these guys would be coming out to qualify, then I'd have to send them right back to shift again after I got them qualified. So they'd come clean their rifle, their shotgun, their handgun, they'd leave them there, they'd take all their mags back over, they'd load all their mags back up, put them in their pouches, whatever, and they'd grab their gear and they'd go back to shift. So obviously it's a little different there, but still, there was no ammunition at the cleaning table. And if I saw any of my guys, my officers, with ammunition at the cleaning table, I would write their asses up like that. And I was probably one of the most lenient supervisors there was. But when it came to stuff like that, it didn't even have anything to do with me losing my job. It had to do with them going home safe at the end of the day. These guys got kids, these guys got husbands, they got wives, they got children, they got parents, whatever it is. I want that person to be able to go home at the end of the day. That was my job, to make sure they're trained safe. And it's my job when I'm teaching classes like this to make sure that people who are watching videos or people who are sitting in front of me have something that says, "Oh, that isn't right." even if they're not just making mistakes themselves and they're keeping themselves on the straight and narrow, I want people to go out and see when they go. I don't want them to see it, but if they go out, I want people to see something that's not right. I want them to go, whoa, I don't think we're going to stay here. This guy's just dangerous. See you, let's go. We're going to take off. And I want them to see if they're over visiting someone at night at their house and somebody's showing them a new firearm. Hey, don't point that gun at me. Hey, you might want to take your finger out of the trigger. Don't be bashful. Tell them. You don't have to be a jerk about it, but tell them. Stick a little bit of embarrassment in them, because that's what's going to make a difference. That's what's going to save somebody's life one day. So we've talked about cleaning, we've talked about storage, we've talked about handling firearms, and I guess now it comes down to, what do you do when you have these things? Well, is it dangerous? Yeah, it is. It's a tool. What is it meant for? Firearms were meant for combat. They were meant for hunting. They were meant for killing, for protection, whatever you want to call it. They're also meant for saving lives, believe it or not. Everybody looks at the negative, but people don't want to look at the positive. But they are dangerous. But so is that shovel in the back of your trunk, or so is that chainsaw, so is that hammer, so is that baseball bat that your kid plays baseball with every day in the spring. All right, you can kill someone just as fast with those, but we don't think about that. We think about this whole gun, bad. No, it's not bad. You don't need to go own one. I'm not saying everybody should have one. I'm saying, but it's not the gun that's bad. Don't be afraid of it. It's not going to hurt you. Just be aware of what you're doing when you're around it. If you see a firearm laying on the table, okay, and you don't know what the condition of it is, if you don't feel comfortable being around it, go tell somebody. Tell someone that knows something. Maybe you're not in your own house. Maybe you're visiting your friend and their dad or whatever has their gun laying there. Hey, you got a firearm laying on the table. Don't just not say anything. You don't know what condition that is. If you know what condition, how to handle it, go walk over, pick it up, open that cylinder, check it out. Okay, it's safe. And then what I would do is I would lay it down just like this, okay, with the muzzle pointed in the safe direction, with the cylinder open, okay. Same thing goes with a handgun, okay. If I find a gun laying like this, again, I'm just talking about stuff that you want to just pay attention to. I don't know if that gun's loaded or not. I want to go make sure. If I don't feel comfortable, I'm going to talk to somebody about it, okay. I'm going to go over, I'm going to take the magazine out, I'm going to lock the slide back, I'm going to physically maybe inspect that firearm is safe. I'm going to lay it down like this, okay? Then I'm going to go get someone who can secure it. But if I'm teaching a class, okay, and I have firearms on the table like I do like this, even though there's nobody right here, every one of these firearms has cylinders up and open and slides back with the chamber facing up. Why? Because if anyone was to walk in this room when I was teaching this class, if my daughter just happened to come over, because she does, I want her to walk in here and look and go, oh, okay, this dad's got guns on the table, he's teaching a class, but I know they're all safe because I can look inside that chamber, I can look inside that cylinder, or that mag's empty, okay? It's all about that kind of stuff. It's all about basic stuff, all right? So we talked about some basic rules, and we're going to wrap things up. I'm going to answer some questions because we pretty much hit the basic stuff that I want you guys to remember. I'm going to go over one more time. Always keep the gun pointed in the safe direction. Always. Always keep your finger out of the trigger. Be aware of your target's environment. What's in line with it? What's behind it? Okay, what's around it? You need to know this stuff. You have to know this stuff. This is stuff that you can't you can't just wing it. It has to continue to be pounded in your head. And always keep that firearm unloaded until you're ready to use it. When you're ready to use it, you're going out to the range. So you keep it unloaded until you get there and you go up to the loading table. Okay, now you can load it. Okay, but you're still keeping that finger out of the trigger because you're not on target yet. Okay, you still aren't pointing it downrange because there could be somebody walking down there. There's a guy down there setting up targets. Okay, are you going to carry that gun for concealment? Are you going to carry that gun for protection? I know we're not getting into this, but of course you're not going to carry an unloaded gun. It's useless. So what are you going to throw it at them? So of course you're going to put rounds in the chamber. You're going to load it. You may or may not carry hot. Okay, I'm not going to get into that. I always carry hot, but that's just my preference. Doesn't matter. Of course you're going to have the gun loaded at least if you're going to carry concealed. Are you using it? Hopefully not, but you're carrying it. So that kind of fits in the mold. Now again, I'm just giving instances, circumstances, okay? But when you get home at the end of the day, or before you get out of your car, or whatever it is, okay, in a safe direction, I'm unloading that firearm, and I'm locking it up, and I'm making sure that it's safe, okay? And I want it safe, not just for me, I want it safe for the people that are around me, okay? Be sure that the firearm is safe to operate, okay? Is it an old gun that you haven't fired in years and years and years? Is it a firearm that your grandfather gave you and nobody's even shot? You want to maybe take a look, make sure that, have someone who's experienced with firearms say, okay, yeah, this thing is just, that barrel's pitted. Man, that firing pin looks broken. I mean, maybe we not want to put a couple rounds to this. Let's send it to a gunsmith, have them look at it first, make sure it's actually safe to operate. It's not just going to blow up in your face. So you want to make sure you know what you have. Know how to use the gun safely. Obviously use the correct ammunition for your firearm when you're using it. Eye and ear protection. Never alcohol or drugs before, during, or while shooting. And we talked about pretty much all the other stuff. You always want to know where everyone is at all times. In your house, at the range, where your kids are. Does that mean you can't have your child come up and say, hey, Dad, can I watch you clean your gun? No, you got to go upstairs. No, you can't be around. Of course you can. I mean, it's your call. It's your decision. It's your child. But again, I wanted my kids to see this stuff because I wanted them to be comfortable around them. I didn't necessarily want to bring them up to be gun people. That's not what I'm saying. But I didn't want them saying when they get older, oh, I want to go see Dad's guns. I want to see. I wanted the mystery taken away. I wanted that alleviated. I wanted the taboo taken away. I didn't want my kids growing up thinking, oh man, once Dad's not looking, I want to look at that. I wanted my kids to be like, yeah, so what? Dad's gun, big deal. Hey, don't, keep your finger out of the trigger. I want them to know that stuff. That's what education's about. Education. Educate people. That's where our country goes wrong. Educate kids. I'm not saying we should be having Eddie Eagle gun classes in our schools, but I am saying that it shouldn't be a taboo thing, okay? All right. That pretty much sums up the class and or the video, and then I'm going to sit down here in a couple minutes and we're going to answer some questions. But I would like to do one thing before I sit down and answer a few questions. And as a little bit of a bonus, maybe a lot of you guys know this, all right? I'm actually, hold on one second, because I want to do a demonstration. And I didn't anticipate doing this. I guess I don't have it. Yeah. Never mind. I'll still do it, but I'm only going to, I don't need, I was going to use a blue gun, a practice gun, because I was going to do this for an alignment thing for you guys. But I'll just use my hands. I'm definitely not going to do it with a live firearm. So, as a little extra bonus for those of you folks that do shoot, and I will be doing some other videos. I may even do some videos out at the range. We'll go out to the range and we'll actually talk about stuff. We'll do a safety briefing, and then I'll actually shoot rounds down range. We'll look at the target. We'll do some fun stuff, steel tie. So that's going to come up. I just want to put something professional together before I do it. Even this little video here, I pulled from some of my stuff, so I made sure I hit on some of the basic points. But just as a little fun thing for those of you guys that are shooters, ask yourself a question. How many of you folks out there that shoot, okay, or hunt, shoot with an eye closed? Whether you're up on target with a rifle, you're up on target with a pistol, how many of you guys shoot with an eye closed? Just ask yourself that. You don't have to even mention it in the chat. If you do shoot with your eye closed, like I used to up to about maybe 15 years ago, why? Why would you do that? Like if you point to someone, hey, look at that guy down there, I see you. Do you close your eye? Of course you don't. You keep your eyes open and you just point at him. Hey, Mom, I want one of those cookies in that jar. You close your eye as a kid? Of course you don't. You keep your eyes open. Hey, I want one of those. So why would you close your eye with a firearm? It's something that's grained into our head. Now, sometimes the little tiny peep sights, yeah, it's hard to keep both eyes open. You got to close one eye so your brain can focus on it. But a handgun, which has a rear sight that looks like this and a front sight that looks like this, and all these people today, they're shooting all these ACOGs and EOTechs and Trigicons and all that crazy stuff that we all use in law enforcement, right? Or some of us gun guys that like to collect that stuff and shoot with it with the laser dots on it. That's fun stuff. why do you shoot with your eye closed? Why would you do that? And I did that years ago. And I remember my first instructor class I took in Canton, Ohio, down at Glock school. And I'm left-handed, okay? So I shoot left-handed. I play guitar right-handed, and I bat and golf right-handed. I'm all messed up. I write left-handed, but I'm all over the place. But I shoot left-handed, all right? So I'm shooting like this, closing my right eye, and I'm shooting left-handed. I'm right eye dominant, and I never knew it till about 15 years ago. So I had my dominant eye closed. Now, first off, why would somebody want to shoot with both eyes open? Well, because if I'm closing this eye, I want to see this guy that's clubbing me over the head with a crowbar. I want to be able to utilize my peripheral vision. I don't want to close my eyes. You think guys that are in tactical teams that go in and doing house clearing, they're pulling down, do you think they got an eye closed? Of course not. They need their peripheral vision. They want to see what's going on. They want to be aware of their target's environment in a different fashion, okay? Now, all this stuff has nothing to do with safe storage. It's just a little bit of fun, a fun wrap-up, little bonus thing I'm just talking about. Bear with me, because I think some of you guys are going to like it. Maybe some of you already know it, but some of you guys are going to like it. So, I learned to shoot with both eyes open, because the instructor came up and said, why are you closing an eye? Well, I've always done that. Shoot with both eyes open. It was really hard, because now I had to have my brain kind of figure things out. I realized that all those years I was closing my dominant eye, my right eye, and shooting with my non-dominant eye, my left eye. And even though I'm left-handed, I'm right eye dominant. Now, I was still scoring in the 90s, okay, maybe the low 90s, whatever. Maybe sometimes I'd pull off a 98 or something like that. But for the most part, I could never get 100 until I got comfortable shooting with both eyes open. I started getting 98s and 100s. And all these years later, I've been shooting with both eyes open. Because A, I don't want to take away my peripheral vision, and B, I want to be aware of, or I want my dominant eye to be able to see the target, not my non-dominant eye. So, for those of you that are right-handed, for those of you that are left-handed, I want you to do a little thing with me right now, all right? I want you guys to find something on the wall, okay? A little dot, a little knot in the wood, or a little doorknob or something that's at least maybe, say, 15, 20 feet away from you. Okay, turn your chair, whatever. I want you to keep both eyes open. And I want you to point at it with whatever hand is your dominant hand, right? It doesn't really matter. I want you to point at it with your index finger. Point at it right now. Both eyes open. You come right up on target, okay? Point at it. Now you think you're on target, right? Now close your left eye. Where are you? Close your right eye. Where are you? Whatever eye is on target is your dominant eye, and whatever eye is way over to the left or right is your non-dominant eye. So some of you guys watching this video are going to, holy crap, I never knew that. Some of you guys are going to be like, oh, I always knew that, and that's fine. Some of you guys are going to be like, neither one of them was on target. Well, you're just totally fucked up, and I can't help you. So there's always someone in my classes, oh, neither one of them was on, and I got to just work with them. But so what I'm saying is, for those of you shooters, all right, that shoot guns, I teach my students to try to shoot with both eyes open for obvious reasons, and we just explained it. And sometimes it's very difficult, okay? Obviously, if you're shooting a rifle, like me, I'm shooting it left-handed, okay, and it's only got tiny little peep sights. Of course, I'm not going to go like this. I have to use my non-dominant eye because I don't have a choice. But when I'm out front, like with a handgun, and I have these types of sights, or I have laser sights, keep both eyes open. The little red dot sights. Let your dominant eye do the work. All right? So, all that being said, that was just a little bonus. Now, I'm not trying to sell people on my methods. I'm not trying to sell people on my techniques or my teaching or whatever. Everybody has their own ways of shooting. Everyone has their own ways of training, and everyone certainly has their own beliefs on the Second Amendment. Okay? Again, I am not here to tell everybody that you should go buy a gun to protect your family or whatever. I am not here for that. If you don't want to do that, I totally respect that, and that is your right. Okay? And you shouldn't do that if you don't want to. But I hope that if you're one of those folks that does not own a firearm and has no intention of owning a firearm, I hope that if you watch this video, you feel a little bit more comfortable when you're around them, if you're around them with someone else, and that if you're around them with someone else and that someone else is doing something stupid, which could turn into a negligent act, call them on it, because they need to be called on. The world needs more people that have the right attitude when it comes to firearms. And that doesn't always necessarily mean those people have to be gun owners. Okay? Need to be common sense based with the right attitude. Okay? Now, with that being said, I'm going to turn the light on. And we're going to answer a few questions. And I hope most folks really like the video. And then we're going to wrap things up in a couple of minutes. All right. So let's see what we got here. And I'm not going to get into a gun debate, so because that's not what this is about. But we will answer some questions. And go back a little bit here. See if we can. Oh, man, we got all kinds of stuff here. Let's see. It's dangerous. Denny says, dangerous being a cop in a country flooded with guns. Yes, it is. It certainly can be. Sean Zimmerman. Yes, I agree with what you just said. Yes. Denny Allen. I own firearms. Believe those who have firearms should be strictly regulated. You know, and again, Denny, I agree with you. As a firearms instructor for civilians and law enforcement, and as a pro-Second Amendment person myself, I absolutely believe there should be training requirements, licensure requirements, and background checks. There has to be something. You're not just going to go give a driver's license to someone who's never sat behind the wheel. All right. In some cases, that's actually more safe than let someone touch a gun that's never had those things. But you know, just I totally agree with you. There are common sense laws. Okay, and I'm not going to get into assault weapons and all. I don't want to talk about that. That's not what I'm here for. Not today. Americans are killed every year because of easy access to guns and ammunition. Absolutely, Denny. 40,000, yeah. And it's all, like I said, it's all negligence. All negligence. And Chris says, so what? Car accidents kill so much more. They do. I mean, yes. I mean, and again, this is where the debate part gets in, guys, and I don't want to get into that. You guys can kind of hash that out if you want. Yeah, I mean, I've heard that argument too. You know, yeah, well, there's a million car accidents today. What are we going to do? Go ban cars? You know, I'm not gonna go into that because what I believe really doesn't mean anything. People believe what they believe, but whatever they believe, we have to at least come to an agreement with whoever has firearms. They're not going away. They're staying because there's way too many people in this country that will just say, sorry, you ain't taking them. So no matter what happens, they're going to be in this country. And criminals are always going to have them, no matter what kind of rules you impose on them, because criminals don't care. You know, it's like, it's interesting. They say, you know, schools, gun-free zones, which they should be. It's interesting. But I always see signs, gun-free zone, gun-free zone. Well, that's great for the people that, you know, are going to practice that, but what do you think the gun-free zone sign means to the guy that's going to go in and blast all the kids? He doesn't give a shit if it's a gun-free zone. So, yeah, so it's, you know, we make laws and stuff that they don't even mean anything really. It's kind of a shame. But I think we all need to at least agree that training, licensure requirements, and background checks should be, you know, should be implemented. Thank you, Zach. I appreciate it. Having a gun in your home greatly increases the chance of you or a family member being shot. I don't agree with that. I've had guns in my house for 30 years, and no one in my house has ever been shot. Sorry, Denny. Don't hear you on that one, dude. Because like I said earlier, I educate my family on them, and I lock my guns up. Let's see if we got any questions here. So I don't want to get too much into the debate. Chris, Dan. Okay, Pennsylvania. Yeah, a lot of good stuff here, guys. A lot of good stuff. It's just that I don't want to get thrown into the middle of. I don't want to get in the middle of a debate on this. Like I said, that's not what I wanted to do here. Hey, Brian, how you doing? Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it, man. Sean says, it can be very fun and rewarding being taught as a kid by your father about guns, how to clean, how to take care of it, not to abuse it, keep the cane chamber clean. Absolutely. That's how I learned. Man, we definitely got into some serious debate here. Vinny, what's going on, buddy? Thank you, Brian. I appreciate the compliment. I thought every states have background checks. I can't name any that don't. Yeah, I mean, they do what's called some of them do like a quick Corey check, but there are some states out there that, I mean, people get guns that definitely shouldn't have them. And they talk about the gun show loophole and things like that. The gun show loophole in Massachusetts doesn't even exist, because if you go to a gun show here in Mass, you can't even touch a gun unless you show them your license to carry. And then they'll do a check on it to make sure that it's still valid, and before you can even touch the gun. And then if you purchase it, then they got to go through the whole background thing anyway. So there's really no such thing as a gun show loophole in Mass. But I do see, other states. Sean, from my cold dead fingers. Brian says, Rob, the most effective and common sense law that could do the most good is prosecuting reckless endangerment. Can't argue with that. Sean, I talk about kids, and like I said, the biggest thing for having kids for me is I never intended, I wanted to teach my son and daughter how to shoot. It's fun. It's great. It's fun to go out and shoot. It's a great time. I enjoy it, going out shooting on a Sunday afternoon, going to the range and having my son do the apple seed shoots with the 22s and winning turkeys, and that's fun. It's a great time, and it teaches kids education and teaches them so much value. But, and again, I'm not going to get into it. I'm just going to say what I did with my kids. I wanted them to feel safe. A, because guns were in the house, and I had them. They were always secured. But I wanted my kids to understand and appreciate the firearm and not be afraid of it, but know what to do if they saw one. And I lucked out because I have two kids that know how to shoot. They don't necessarily care to go out very much. I mean, if hey, you guys want to go shoot? Nah, maybe sometime. Sometimes they'll say yes, sometimes no. But but they understand it. And that's the biggest thing is education. No matter what you want to do. Last story I want to tell. I had a couple, a husband and a wife from New York, and their daughter. Their daughter was 18 years old. Messaged me one time about 5 years ago, and they said, "Hey, we want to take your gun class. We want to get our license to carry, but we want to be very clear. We have absolutely no intentions of shooting anything. We don't want to go to the range. We just have some guns that were handed down to us from my grandfather, and we don't want to throw them out. We want them to stay in the family. But in order to own these firearms, we have to have the class." They technically didn't. They could have still had them in their house, just kept them locked. And the only time the LTC license to carry would have been needed is if they transported them. But whatever, that was fine. I said it's a good idea to have a license for sure, in case they ever did do that. So I remember the husband and the wife and the 15-year-old daughter sat in my class, and I took them to the whole thing, and they made it very clear in the beginning of the class, don't try to turn us into gun people, which I would never do that. I was just giving them the safety class so they could they could satisfy the regulations and requirements they needed to satisfy in order to get their license. So I said, no, don't worry about it. I said, I just hope you learn something. And like I said before, I said, if nothing else, I just hope that you feel more comfortable around them. And when you acquire these firearms that your grandfather was giving you, I hope that, you're not afraid of them, and at least you feel more comfortable knowing that they're in your residence locked up. So we gave them the class, took them out to the range. because part of the class they were taking required live fire. They had to fire 50 rounds. All right. At the end of the class, they already paid me. They wanted to take me out to dinner, which I said we'll go, but I wouldn't let them pay for me. We went out to dinner, and the husband and the wife and the little girl were like, wow, that was amazing. Thank you so much. It's so much fun. Wow, it was amazing. It was so much fun, and we learned so much. And I'm not patting myself on the back. It's just amazing to see people, to see that, oh, evil people, you gun people, you evil people. Why do you need those? And then you actually let them try it in a very controlled, safe manner. They're like, whoa, these people aren't all nuts. Wow, all that crap I do see on YouTube and all these retards, all these idiots, I'm going to say, let me take that term back. All these jerks doing stupid things that they shouldn't do. Wow, there are people that are like that. Yeah, there are. We are out there. And I don't condone any of the stuff that these knuckleheads do. I think they should have their guns taken away from them and restricted before they kill somebody or themselves. Get them some training, get them a background check, get them some license requirements, give them some appreciation if they have that right attitude, like we talked about in the beginning of the video. And so 6 months after the class, I'm getting emails from these people. They joined all these clubs. The father's doing competitive shooting. He's doing the mother's joined the women's league. It's like the daughter, she goes to the range, and her and her boyfriend were shooting. It's like, yeah, home run, that's great. But that wasn't my purpose, to make shooters out of these people. My purpose was to make them feel comfortable, and mission accomplished. Like Eddie Van Halen says, hey, if we sell a record, if one person likes it, mission accomplished. Well, when I'm up teaching and doing what my profession actually is teaching, if I get through to one person, I at least make them feel safer, mission accomplished. Because maybe that one person feeling safer is going to save somebody down the road, save a life, okay? Or just put some information in somebody else's brain that will help someone else save a life. That's what it's all about, So, I want to thank you guys. It looks like we don't really have any questions, but I do want to... Rob had been doing this for 45 years. Awesome, man. Awesome. Gun collector, you got to run. Rob, have you ever shot a Mossberg Shockwave 26.5 inch barrel, 12-gauge shot? It's fun to shoot. Yes. My buddy has one. I had never had one, but my buddy has one. Yeah, it's got a little bit of the Magnum slug's got a little bit of oomph behind them. Yeah, feel that one in the morning in the shoulder. Good gun though. But yeah, definitely. Oh, it's okay. Jordan asked again. Yes, I have great guns. But I want to say thank you guys. We're gonna call it here. Thank you very much for your support. Thank you very much for your input. Everybody that's inputted here, messages and your opinions on things, I respect every single one of them. Every single one of them I respect. All you guys. And I want to say, I want to say, Danny, I agree with a lot of the stuff you're saying. Why are people electing politicians who don't enforce laws? I agree with that. I really do. Unfortunately, we live in a world that nothing's ever going to be perfect, so all we can do is try to make good choices. All we can try to do is educate our kids, our peers, our family members, our friends. All we can try to do is educate people on what we believe is right, what we believe is safe, whether that's owning a gun or whether that's not owning a gun, or whether that's educating somebody on what's proper to do if you find one. That's what our job is. And I think we would all agree on that. But I want to thank you, everybody, for watching. This is a fun little video. It actually turned out to be a lot more fun than I anticipated, just because everybody got involved, and that's awesome. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate it. I could talk with you all day, too. Like I said, guitars, guns, martial arts, fitness, all that fun stuff. It's great. But everybody, thank you very much. For those of you that jumped in late, please watch back from the beginning. And we'll be doing many more videos. I'll be doing a Van Halen guitar video here probably this week again. And thank you guys. Please leave a comment. Please leave a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you thought it could have been better. I don't have a problem with either one. Please leave me a message if there's something you would like to discuss, and I appreciate it. Oh, just one last thing, Brian. I trained under Suzanne Cooper, a world champion and instructor at Quantico for Ayub and Clint Smith. I think Suzanne Cooper, I think she was a relative of Jeff Cooper, who was a famous shooter. And I've trained with Ayub and Clint Smith out in Arizona. I actually used to go to the Second Amendment Gun Conference each year, and I met Assad many times. I've taken a few of his classes. Great guy. And I believe he's still a part-time cop in New Hampshire. I think he still does that. And Clint Smith, the guy's just phenomenal. Amazing. Yeah, great guy. I've been to some of his classes. But thanks, guys, so much. I appreciate all your comments. Thank you very much. And I will catch you on the flip side. Stay safe, guys. For those of you guys that are firearms owners, remember, keep it safe, keep it real, have fun, educate people, and let's bring up another generation of children that at least understand and appreciate what these things are. Okay? Thank you, guys. Have a good night.